Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at my first aid gear that I have in my truck. You saw these containers in another video. If you haven't seen that one, go back and watch it. But that was the emergency preparedness box and kind of emergency kit in your car. This is going to be my first aid gear, which consists of these two containers, which as you can see is quite a decent amount of stuff. But let's get into it. Alright, so I have these two containers here. This first one is an Apache 4800, which is Harbor Freight's brand of hard-sided cases. You can do Pelican if you want, you can do whatever you're comfortable with. This is probably a fifth the cost of Pelican, so depending on what you're doing and how much durability you want, you can choose. This was more than enough for me for my truck. This guy over here is the Sheffield Field Bots, so small kind of ammo can style size. Both have different uses. So this one is more of a trauma emergency first aid kit. So this sits behind the driver's seat for me, usually kind of under the seat area. So this is up there, easy to get to. This big guy is more just medications, first aid, less important stuff that sits in the back, because this is pretty big to go in the rear seat. So these two together make up the first aid kit. We'll start with the little guy, which is again more of the emergency trauma style stuff. Alright, so in this guy first, again, kind of smaller kit, perfect for jumping out of your car, going to help someone, something. So pop it open, it's red, which is nice, so that if you're helping someone and you have to tell someone to go get your stuff, you don't tell them to go get the bag in your car and there's 30 other tactical style bags. Just get the red dots. You could put first aid on here if you want, you could do whatever you want, but it's a convenient size and color. First in here we have a headlamp. Doesn't matter what kind of headlamp. This is a black diamond, kind of cheaper one, but does the job perfectly. You want this because a lot of emergencies happen at night. If you're driving down the road and you see something, you're going to need a headlamp because you're not going to be able to do anything if you can't see anything. So headlamp is the first on top here. Next is some gloves. Depending on the scenario and what's going on and who the patient is and whatever else, you can wear gloves. You don't have to wear them. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I have gloves in here just in case something gets a little bit too juicy for me. Next in here is the Leatherman Raptor shears. I have these in orange. I've used these for quite a few years in the hospital. So these are amazing. They're pretty heavy, so they will weigh your pockets down, and they are kind of bulky, but they're great at what they do. If you guys haven't seen these, they're worth getting a pair. They're like $70, which sounds expensive, but they open up into shears. There we go. They'll cut through anything, and seatbelt cutter, oxygen, tank wrench, ring cutter, window breaker. I've used the ring cutter before. It works on natural rings. Shears obviously work amazing. Seatbelt cutter probably works great too. I haven't used that. Oxygen wrench, haven't used that. But if you need the best shears possible, these or the etch shears are really good too. So those are in there, and those fold up, which is really nice. Over here is one of the little Rescue Me or Rescue First little CPR face shields. These are probably the least important thing that I have in this container. I probably will never use this, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it not have it. I'm pretty much never going to do mouth to mouth during CPR, so it's just nice to have just in case. Small. You can get a bunch of these on Amazon or whatever. I'm just going kind of front to back here, no particular order. Here we have some OPAs. So these are, sorry, the glare's kind of getting you there. These are a couple different, actually a bunch of different sizes of oral airways. These I would hopefully never have to use, and probably don't need to use, but I have them in here because I can. Again, kind of a rather have it, not need it kind of thing. So next in here after the oral airways will be some compressed gauze. This is from North American Rescue. I got 3 bundles of it. So this works alongside basically the same as Quick Clot, which is compressed gauze with some agents to promote the stoppage of bleeding. This is not the super fancy, cool, tactical, military, cool guy stuff, but it's the same thing, just a smaller amount and cheaper. So these 2 work the same, basically. This one works a little differently, but they both stop bleeding. So these are both good to have. These are pretty cheap on North American Rescue, so you can get these for like $5 a bundle or something like that. Next in here is North American Rescue Emergency Trauma Dressing. This is a 4-inch flat version. This you could roll around an arm or, you know, a big gash in your leg or something like that, around your head if you wanted to. This is just good to have. Kind of the next level of this would be an Israeli bandage, which this is, you can get these, I think, Amazon maybe too. Just a bigger version with like a plastic clip to crank it down and apply a little bit more pressure. This is always a good thing to have with that for bleeding control. More bleeding would be a tourniquet. These are pretty simple to use. This is a CAT Gen 7 from North American Rescue. You can use whatever one you want. You know, there's the approved ones and the less common ones like the rats or whatever. Use whatever you want. I'd probably use this, but do whatever you want. You can have more of these if you want. These are like $29 most times, so they're kind of expensive to, you know, you could have 10 in here if you want, but that's kind of a lot of money for this. So 1, 2, whatever you're comfortable with. Next in here would be breathing. So we have 2 for those. So airway, breathing, lungs, whatever you want to call it. So we have some hyphen chest seals. These are kind of like plastic barriers, one on each side of your chest for a pass-through. Stops air from getting into your lung area. Needle decompression. This is a big ass needle that goes into your chest and lets air that's trapped inside your chest out, doesn't let air back in. So these 2 together will help with whatever, car accident, crush injury to your chest, or a bullet shot, bullet wound, or whatever. Between all this stuff, you have quite a bit covered. This would kind of be airway stuff. This would kind of be bleeding stuff. You got your headlamp and just kind of tools over here, and then your little CPR mask too. So all this stuff here, it's a decent amount of stuff. You can do a pretty good job with everything here. You're not going to fix every problem. That's not what this is for. This is for rolling up to someone getting their arm caught in a car crash, get shot, stabbed, whatever. You can help them in a pretty meaningful way. Get trained on this stuff. It's pretty easy to get trained. Take a CPR class, take an advanced CPR class, take a class on whatever, Narcan. Get trained. It's easy. You'll remember it for a long time, and you're more likely to use this stuff than, you know, fight a bad guy or something like that. So we'll move from this kind of exciting container of emergency trauma stuff to the yellow one, which is less fun but probably more useful for 99% of the time you're driving around. So, all right, so we're going to get into this container now. Again, this is a pretty big container, so you just keep it in the back. You're not going to grab this in an emergency. You'll grab this when you're on a road trip or by the beach, you know, out to dinner and someone gets sick or whatever. you twist an ankle, something like that. So there's quite a bit in here, as you guys can see from the top-down view up here. So we'll just kind of go through this little bit by little bit. This big orange part here, which you guys can probably see, is from Duration Health. They are an outdoor company, medical company, where you can interview with a doctor and get certain stuff prescribed to you based on what you do and what you need. If you're going to wherever and you need some malaria pills, you can get those. If you want antibiotics, other stuff like that, you can get that. So I did that. I've put more into this, but this is mostly like an antibiotic kit, which we can get into either later this video or a separate video, depending on how much is in here, which I kind of forget, honestly. But this is pretty full of antibiotics, ointments, you name it, over-the-counter stuff too. But this will help when you're not close to a doctor and you need some other stuff. In here we have some saline spray. You could use this for wound wash, for clawed nose, whatever. With that is some gauze, 4x4s. You can clean out a wound. You can, put make an eye patch out of this, make a dressing out of this. So just nice to have. This little bundle right here is some pads and tampons for all the periods and menstrual cycles that you or loved ones have to deal with. There's some wet wipes in here too. It's your body, it's not something to be gross about, so just learn about it and be prepared for all those situations. This little bunch of stuff in here, these are some of the little towelettes that you put water on and they expand into like a little towel. I have a container with salt in there. You could use it for table salt if you want, but can kind of make some clean out a wound if you really needed to. But I just have it. I don't really know, it's old, but it works. This is a flat splint. So this is just a piece of metal surrounded by some foam, basically. You can make a splint out of it for all over your body. You can cut it in half if you need to, make a smaller splint, make 2 splints, whatever. But I like this one because it pats quite flat, so it fits in here well. I have the other one, which is like the circle, which may also work, but I like this one in here. Also, there's a Sharpie in here. I have some N95 masks, because they're good to have even before COVID, and masks work, so yay for N95s. In here we have a little boo-boo kit. This may be your most used item in this whole first aid kit. Various bandages, eye patches, tegaderms, alcohol pads. You'll use this a lot for little scrapes and bumps. Pair of mechanics gloves. These look the same as the ones in the other red bin, the emergency bin, but they're a different pair. Again, if you're dealing with broken glass or something like that, it's not a bad idea to protect yourselves. So a pair of mechanics gloves. This little pouch in here has various little ointments. So this is like a sting wipe to help with bee stings or whatever. Got some hand sanitizer, some more sting relief stuff, first aid burn cream in here, antiseptic wipes, some triple antibiotic ointment, just a whole little bunch of little packages that I just keep in this black pouch. This, I don't even know where this came from. This is one of the little pouches that you get in clothes or containers, whatever, that is it's a desiccant, so it gets rid of moisture. I leave this in here to help with any moisture that might affect any of these things, the antibiotics or meds in there especially. Alrighty, so in these little bins here, I have a little pulse ox. You can get this from anywhere. It's good for obviously oxygen saturations, but also heart rate, just so you can see a little bit at least. Little package of gloves. Again, If you want to use them or not, it's up to you. But this stuff may be a little bit more low craziness level, whatever. So probably don't need these, but nice to have them. In here I have another little headlamp. This is like a cheapo Walmart headlamp. So I'm probably almost never going to use this. So I'm not putting a nice headlamp in here, but it's something. Little pair of tweezers. These are in the little plastic case. So it's nice to have these available. Have a little roll of duct tape, which you can get from any outdoor store or whatever. This is a couple feet or whatever, good for everything. This is smelling salt, so ammonia salt, whatever you want to call them. Great for making people wake up. They smell really bad. Got some hand sanitizer in here, a little one, and then it's kind of tucked in there, but a roll of medical tape, just a thick, like 3-inch roll, so you can wrap stuff around. So this is just a nice little odds and ends bin right there. This pouch back here is a thermal blanket for preventing hypothermia, so that's quite important. We got 2 ace bandages here for wrapping stuff, sprained ankle, whatever. This is a triangle bandage for making a sling or wrapping stuff, whatever you need. And then, what is this? A trauma pad, small trauma pad for bleeding, stomach, whatever. So this stuff just kind of all packs in here nicely. So that's this bin there. And this last thing, which could potentially go in the red container as like a trauma thing, but it's kind of too big to go in there. So this black piece of cloth is a sling to move people. So it's a big piece of canvas with some handles to move people away from dangerous situation. So this is probably something you would need in more of an emergency. I don't really have room in the red container to put it in, so it's in here, but there's an argument to be made it should go elsewhere. So that's everything that's in this yellow container. So it's quite a bit of stuff. It's stuff that you'll use camping, you'll use on vacation. You know, if you're, whatever you're doing, going to the range, there's stuff in here for pretty much every scenario. Again, there's more stuff in the orange bag, which I may go over here in a second, but this is kind of, again, the less cool, important stuff, but stuff that you'll use a lot more often, hopefully. This is more antibiotics and more kind of specific stuff. So again, this is from a company called Duration Health. They kind of help you get medications for being away from civilization. So they send you this container, which is pretty nice. I've added quite a bit to this. So in this top pouch, couple different medications here, some prednisone, some azithromycin, antibiotics, stuff for stomach aches, all that prescription stuff up here, some prescription ointments down here, some Zofran, great for nausea. I have a little light stick here just to help me see stuff if I need it. I got some little packages of over-the-counter aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen, stuff like that in these pouches here. So again, go on the website if you want. I'm not sponsored by them. I paid full price for all this stuff. You do have to pay for it, unfortunately, but depending on what you're doing and where you're going and how important you care, or how much you care about this stuff, you can get it if you want. So a bunch of meds here on this top section. This bottom section here has some more stuff. So here we have some just over-the-counter Benadryl, diphenhydramine, whatever you want to call it. I think some anti-diarrhea stuff here, Motrin, Tylenol. I think this is Mucinex. This is some Benadryl cream, some cortisone cream, a little bit of Aquaphor for cracked feet or whatever. Some ton depressors for all sorts of uses. A couple of safety pins, just safety pinned to the mesh here. Good for, I guess, medical use, but also just things that safety pins are good for. Back here more, another pack of gloves. Some of these are creams, so you may not want like creams in your hands, so that's why I have that here. These are 2 burn dressings. These are not going to cure you of a burn, but they will make it feel not quite as terrible until you can get help. If you're by a fire or a little heater, whatever, these will at least make it not miserable, hopefully. Another emergency blanket, good to have. Couple hand warmers, obviously great in an emergency, but also just comfort. You can use these to heat up your sleeping bag if you need to. They're nice to have. This is some Dermabond. This is like super glue for your body. It'll help seal up a wound or anything like that. You can't always get these. There was like a surplus sale at a local kind of gun store, tactical store that had these, so I don't really know how they got them, but this one was 15 bucks for this, so it seemed like a decent value to me. This is an instant cold pack, and then you pop it and it will get quite cold. Good for backache or a headache, whatever. Some COVID tests, 4-pack, good to have. It's, you know, it's a thing. It kills people, so nice to not infect people. This is a contact case for anyone who wears contacts. I don't, but it's just nice to have it for anyone who might need it. Another thing of Narcan. Again, I probably wouldn't use this in this kit for someone because they'd probably be dead by the time I get it out, but it's nice to have it. This is a little package of eye drops, single serve, so you can use this in combination with these or just for your eyes. This is a box of potassium iodide. You can get this online. If there were ever a nuke, pop a couple of these and you're less likely to die quickly from radiation. You may die eventually, but it'll help in the short term. This is some hurricane spray. This is like chloroseptic spray for your throat. Numbs it a lot. So if you have super bad strep throat or whatever, this will really help. This is kind of a last resort for throat pain, so use it sparingly. This is a little safety razor for cutting bandages or whatever you need a safety razor for. Next in here is a couple lidocaine patches. You can get a bunch of these. These are pretty big ones, but you know, helps driving long distances, or if you hurt your back doing something, just nice to have a couple of these. This little notebook here comes from the company. This is kind of instructions and directions of the meds that you have in here and how to use them, when to use them, when not to use them, stuff like that. So this is great because you may not be in an area where you can call someone for help, and you may, some of this lower stuff, lower intensity stuff can actually help you in a pickle. So I added basically everything you see in this lower pouch besides this notebook, because I think there's a time and a place for all this stuff. Hopefully you'll never need this for nuclear fallout, but it's there. Now I just got to figure out how I had this all packed in here. Okay, so that's more or less how I had it. It's good enough for me. As you can see, there's quite a bit in here. Between this and the yellow case and the red case, you can cover pretty much anything you're going to encounter on the road. And if you can't do it with this stuff, you need to go to the hospital or you're probably already dead. So sorry to burst your bubble on that. Again, get trained on this stuff. Get trained on antibiotics, medicines, how to protect yourself, how to not need to use this stuff in the first place. So yeah, so I hope that was interesting. But if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, queries, quibbles, anything like that, just leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.